So a trailer hit the internet this week that I'm sure that anyone listening to this podcast is probably, whether you love it, whether you hated it, whether you were lukewarm on it, whether you were somewhere in the middle, you probably definitely have an opinion about it. I'm talking, of course, about the Jurassic World Rebirth trailer.
That's exactly what I'm sure they were thinking you were going to say.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
What else could you have possibly been mentioning?
I'm not, nothing else really that I know of, really came out this week. So
I feel like there was probably something else.
Probably. Yeah, I mean, the internet is a big place.
It is, man. Maybe at this point, about 4 days ago, maybe,
I can't be everywhere.
Maybe spectacular or fantastic, even. I don't know. It's
the Spectacular 7. Yeah. Yeah, I know about them.
Oh, you might have to fill me in.
They're like they're the new thing Sony's gonna do. They found 2 more people, so rather than the Sinister 5, they're gonna do the Spectacular 7.
Oh, Jesus! Who were the other 2 they found?
Like, what's funny is like they're gonna do 7, and like none of them will be Spider-Man.
Yeah. They're like, who could we possibly use?
Who could we possibly get? Isn't there a Spectacular Spider-Man? Isn't that a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that is a book. And so that makes it even more ironic.
Yeah, none of those people will be Spider-Man. They might get Gwen. That's like the closest they could possibly get. Of course, we are going to talk about the Fantastic Four trailer. We're only going to blue balls you guys for a little bit. I do want to get your thoughts on it. Have you seen the Rebirth trailer? Did you watch it? Yeah. So what do you think about that?
I realized after I watched the trailer, I am still very burned out on Jurassic World movies.
Me too. It doesn't feel... There's a couple problems with this trailer. Like, it doesn't feel like a full reboot, of course.
No. It's not, clearly.
It kind of feels like they just said, fuck it, we're just going to go pure action movie with it. Mm-hmm. And, like, honestly, if it's that or a side plot about locusts, then I'm game for this. This is one of those, like, nerdy things that's going to bother me. So they're like, we got to go to the research facility for the original Jurassic Park. Right? And that's Isla Sorna. That's where they go in Lost World. So, like, if this is some completely different island, I'm going to be pissed.
That's true. I need a nerd button. I'm going to get that next.
Nerd.
I'm going to see if I can get that by tomorrow.
Yeah. I know a lot about this particular thing. So
have you read the books?
Yeah.
By Michael Crichton? Okay.
And I did read that they're doing this whole thing where it's like, oh, well, some of these dinosaurs were experimental or they were too dangerous to go to the park. And that is an element of the Michael Crichton books. And some of that stuff got kind of disseminated into the rest of the stuff, like into the Jurassic World movies, like
Indominus Rex.
The Indominus or whatever. But a lot of it has not, and I think that they may still make that happen. I like the cast. I love Jonathan Bailey a lot. And then ScarJo is ScarJo, So
yeah. When I watched it, man, and it just felt like something I had seen several times before.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I'm still going to check it out. We're still going to talk about it, and it could be something that is great. As it stands, I don't know, based off this trailer alone, so not going off of much, but I don't know if I'm going to enjoy it any more than I did the 2015 Jurassic World.
Right.
I think that's probably like the ceiling for this movie. I mean, because that was also a kind of a star-studded action romp, that if you turn your brain off, you can enjoy certain moments of it for sure. And I think with this one, it has potential to kind of be something similar. Hopefully, it's even better than that, though.
I mean, I prefer for like them to act. What the crazy thing is, right? Is we've talked about this at length. It's like they teased several times this idea of okay, well the dinosaurs are just going to live among us.
Yep.
And I think that's such an interesting concept for like, what if dinosaurs were just in our world again?
Yeah.
And they keep teasing us with that, but I think the creative mind that it would take to give us that, I don't think they're willing to do it.
it would take a very specific director to pull something like that off. Someone who has a vision for that kind of world.
Yeah.
And
a writer, if it's not the director too.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, and a very talented group of writers, because I mean, how do you keep it from being something either so mind-numbingly dumb that people laugh at it, or keep it from being an episode of the Flintstones?
Right.
You know.
Well, I mean, it's going to be, obviously, we have the same technology and things that we have now. It'd just be like, well, there's also dinosaurs. But it seems like they're trying to put that genie back in the bottle with this movie, because they mentioned like that the atmosphere is like toxic to them or whatever. Like they can't survive outside of these specific areas that are kind of designed to be prehistoric Earth.
And I'll be honest, man, like the one glimmer of hope that I did have for this movie was that maybe we were finally going to see a world with dinosaurs and humans, and seeing how, like, I would love a movie where, like, we fast forward, like, 3 years afterwards, from the last Jurassic World movie, and we see, like, the viewpoint of some Joe Schmo everyman, and, maybe his job now is fucking... Hell, a job as a delivery driver would be hell in that world. But, like, what's his day like, Or the person who has to keep food items stocked in a grocery store, like, just the mundane shit becomes so exciting and exhilarating and anxious, I just think that if they had done something more like that, even on a small scale, maybe a grander plot, would have been really interesting. But here we go. We have another action romper. They're going back to an island, and they are looking for the magical MacGuffin for science, and it's going to be very dangerous. And again, for reasons unknown, there are children involved.
Right, right. Some child has managed to sneak yet again onto a dinosaur island. The only time that didn't happen was in the second one. Oh, no. That did happen in the second one. It was in the third one. That kid did not intentionally go to that island.
True.
But in all other cases, someone brought or a child snuck onto the dinosaur island. Motherfucker.
Yeah, and maybe the dinosaurs are just genetically predispositioned to not kill children because their track record is terrible with those kids.
It really is.
Yeah, I don't know how they keep getting away with it.
I'm going to tell you. If this is just an action film and I guess I'm okay with it. If they're going to just make it Fast and the Furious Dino Crisis, whatever. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The series definitely needs some direction. It's very clear that they aren't willing to experiment enough to give us that. And I think that concept that we talked about really, I think a lot of people want that, but they need to stop like putting the football out.
Yep.
If they're just going to snatch it out from under us, just say that the atmosphere is toxic to them and just don't talk about that anymore.
Yeah.
Because like the dinosaurs can't escape out into the real world for like the sixth time.
Exactly. And also what that does is it makes the movies that excuse will work for this movie, but if they plan on doing another one, which I bet they will, it's going to make it seem so dumb, because now you're going to keep finding reasons for these people to go back to where the dinosaurs are.
Right, yeah. Yeah, a thing that no one should do.
Right.
Ever. Yeah.
And so it seems like it's going to be, this is me putting on my rose-tinted glasses. Let me take these off and put on my rose ones. But it seems like it's going to be just like a fun adventure questing kind of, like you said, action romp. And they're going to go there, and there's like what I think in the trailer they said 3 different specimens they need to collect or something like that. Yeah. And so someone took the plot of a video game and they said, what if we just made this into a movie? Yeah. We take this 4-player co-op video game idea that we had and we turn it into a movie.
Dare to ponder. What if?
What if? Yeah. So I think that in terms of the July blockbusters, I think that maybe who's making that movie? What studios is it? Warner?
It's got to be Universal, right?
Universal. Yeah. Yeah, I think that Universal is probably wondering, like, man, maybe we should have pushed this one back some.
Although I think the movie, I think Gareth Edwards is directing.
What else has he done?
Andor and
Okay.
he did the Andor show and Rogue One.
Okay.
Yeah, Gareth Edwards. And let's see what else. He also did The Creator.
That sounds familiar. I think I've heard it.
Isn't that the one? Yeah, that's the one that's got John David Washington in it, where they're trying to like rescue the little AI child.
That's right. Oh, he did that one.
I never seen that. He also did the 2014 Godzilla.
Okay, that's actually out of all the newer Godzilla movies, that's the only one I kind of enjoyed.
That's the one that had Bryan Cranston.
Yep.
I like the first Kong versus Godzilla. If you take out all the parts with just the humans.
Right. If you just give me that 17 minutes of Kong and Zilla.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I mean, as long as I don't care if the humans are in the shot, as long as the humans are in the shot and it's about the kaiju.
Yeah.
Like the whole subplot that only has the humans and like no monsters in it.
Right.
You could take that shit out.
Yeah. So with the 2014 one, right? Like I understand why so many people don't like it because it is very slow paced and you know you don't really get to see a lot of Godzilla or the other kaiju until like the big finale fight at the end. But what I liked about it was they gave me the less is more approach, and they gave me this is kind of what it would feel like if this thing existed. You know,
Have you seen -1?
I've not seen -1 yet.
It's a good watch. It's one of those things where it's like it was overhyped, right? Like it is very good for the amount of money they made it for. Absolutely, I think they spent like $14 million on that movie.
It's cheap,
and it actually, interestingly enough, like the human characters that are in the movie, their plot is actually good. And then there just also is a giant lizard that destroys cities.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, they got both? How do they do that?
Yeah, both of them.
Both of them, huh?
Both of them. And, yeah, I don't know. But I don't know if it's like the best Godzilla movie. But it's very good for what they spent on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's all I got to say about giant kaiju. You guys want to talk about Fantastic Four.
Oh, yes. Fantastic Four. Oh, man. So my turn to ask you, what did you think of the Fantastic Four trailer?
So I mentioned this to you off mic. I got fleeced, man, because everybody was like, "Oh, the Fantastic Four trailer, blah blah blah." So I like go to YouTube and I'm like, "Fantastic Four trailer," and I guess like the algorithm hadn't like caught up yet to like the real shit, and so I pulled up this like fake ass fucking trailer, and it just had like Pedro Pascal talking slow as fuck, and it was like these generic ass lines where he was like, "We've got to stop them." And like just really like early 2000s movie trailer shit, you know?
Right.
And I'm sitting there and they had like some AI that like kind of made what's his name? Joseph Quinn kind of looked like Chris Evans a little bit. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And then like I go online and people are texting me and they're messaging me and everybody's like, Fantastic Four trailer looks so good, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, we ain't watching the same shit. And we were not. It was fake. Yeah. The trailer I watched was completely fucking fake. But it looked really good for a fake trailer, right. But it looked really bad for a real trailer.
Yeah. It's funny how there's that distinction.
Yeah, you know? Yeah. And then I watched the real one, and I was like, oh, okay. I see. This is what everyone is on about. I was very worried about this movie, and I don't know that that's changed. Mm-hmm. I think it all looks very good, and I think that I'm not as worried about the tone as I was. I think the tone is, if the tone of the movie is like this trailer, I think it's just right. I think the movie is going to be all modern, and I think they're going to do the origin in flashbacks, which I think is a good way to go.
Yep.
My main concern at this point is how are they going to, like, obviously, like, the money shot is that half a second of Galactus on Earth.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah. And we're all like, bitch, what?
Yeah.
You know, that's like a thing that we never thought we were going to see.
Right.
Even we got Thanos, we're like, well, I mean, you know, but not Galactus.
You're right.
But yeah, man, like that shot is just kind of breathtaking, right? Just seeing the shadow of his big ass dome,
ginormous fucking head helmet.
So that is interesting. I just want to know how they're going to pull together Silver Surfer, which we don't see in the trailer. Right. What the kind of main plot is going to be, because you think that Galactus money shot's got to be in the third act.
Yeah.
Unless they just Family Guy the shit, and Pedro Pascal's like, yeah, you remember that time we fought Galactus? and then they just show a little montage, and that's it. Like, you know how mad we would be?
Oh, for sure.
It'd be furious. And then my other main concern, I think, is actually with the fandom. It doesn't have anything to do with Marvel. I think the fans are not all of them, obviously, but I think people are setting themselves up to be let down, because I think a lot of people believe that they're just sitting on Doctor Doom and that this movie is going to have a large Victor Von Doom presence. And I'm like, folks, if RDJ is in this movie for anything more than a cameo, that motherfucker would be all over the poster.
Oh, for sure.
They're not going to... This is Marvel. They're not going to hide that RDJ is in the movie.
Right.
If they do, then I guarantee you he might pop up in post credits. Maybe he pops up for one scene in the regular movie, and then another, and then the post credit scene. That's the most you are going to get, unless they directly advertise otherwise.
Do you think that since we have a strong feeling, we can very much assume that the Fantastic Four are already well established in this universe?
Right.
They're being treated like celebrities. People love them. They're given a tour of the Baxter Building through the trailer. Do you think they already have established a relationship with Doctor Doom? Do you think he already exists as is?
Maybe. I mean, I could totally see a situation where it's maybe they do a sort of Silence of the Lambs type sequence where maybe Reed's I'll be right back, I gotta go visit him, or something like that. And he goes to Victor and he's in prison. And maybe they have these little chats from time to time, and then maybe at the end he gets out, or something. Yeah. Maybe something like that.
I can see him needing a resource, whether it be adamantium or vibranium, and Latveria has a lock on that shit.
Yeah.
And maybe they have to go,
Or it doesn't exist in their universe, and so that's why he has to come to 616.
Yeah.
To get it, because we got a big ass motherfucking we got a big ass celestial baby worth of adamantium.
Yeah, exactly. That's an oddly specific unit of
we will do anything to avoid the metric system. This is America.
Yeah. How much do you have of it? Man, I got a damn giant aborted celestial baby's worth of it.
Yeah. It's that is oddly specific. That's the exact amount I have. Minus a few chunks, probably. Yeah. Somebody that got some of that shit.
Oh, for sure.
I don't know, man. How do you mine that shit?
Yeah, because, exactly, right? Because, typically with adamantium, once it cools, that's it.
Yeah, don't you have to, heat that shit up to, 6 billion degrees to move it?
And keep it moving.
Yeah, you have to keep it at that temperature.
Right.
I don't know, man. That seems like a lot.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult.
I can't think of very many people that have access to that, but Reed Richards could do it.
Yeah, he can fucking do it.
He'd be like, oh, yeah, let me just bring out the mobile fucking volcano. Yeah. What? Why do you have that?
I made this on the way over here.
Yeah, why do you have that?
I like the casting, except I do have some concerns with Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards.
I actually liked his mannerisms here. But I do agree that, we know that Pedro Pascal has the range.
Right.
Because with Reed, it's kind of you have to have that reserved nature. You have to be able to speak diplomatically and also scientifically.
Right.
But then he also has his limits.
Yeah.
And when you fuck with those limits,
right,
he's coming for you.
Yeah.
And it's usually Victor that.
Yeah, he's usually the one that pushes those boundaries.
Yeah.
I do wonder though, what was the decision behind having Pedro Pascal not shave his mustache? Like he couldn't be bothered to just.
Does he like gotta? Is the internet upset about this?
I mean, I've only really heard the internet complain about
the voice,
about Ben's voice, or like the size of Galactus, and that one's really a non-issue.
All they gotta do is put a little gravel in his voice.
Yeah, that's it.
They can modulate that shit.
Right.
I don't know why they didn't though. That's just
listen. They can just have him get throat punched by Doom or somebody, and then just
Or you know what? We'll dub over it for you guys.
Yeah, we'll do the whole
for the
thing.
right price, Kevin Feige. We know you listening.
Right. No, I haven't really seen a whole lot of the internet complain about like the mustache. For me, it's just that when I look at him, I don't see Reed Richards. I just see Pedro Pascal because that's exactly what Pedro Pascal looks like.
Reed and Sue have a kid, yeah? Pretty famous kid?
Yes, they do. Two of them.
Yeah, two of them. Well, what has to happen is they need to have one of these magical children, see? And then when he's protecting the magical child, then it'll all click for you.
Yeah, okay. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Especially if he has to escort the child somewhere. The magical child.
You have to escort the child to
616.
Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as that happens, it'll all click for you. I promise. You'll be like, oh, that's Reed Richards.
This feels oddly familiar.
Something I do want to comment on, though, and this actually will feed right into our topic tonight, is I had somebody say, Doom has to be in the movie because there's no Reed Richards without Victor Von Doom. And I was like, if that's the case, my friend, then we have a fucking shit stain of a Reed Richards. Because that's kind of like saying that, like, there's no Batman without the Joker. Yeah. Like, Batman might be at his best when he is fighting the Joker because of the tribulations that Joker can put him through and, like, the way that Joker is an antithesis for him.
Right.
However, that doesn't mean that, like, every single episode of anything Batman related over the years that doesn't have the Joker in it is not relevant. I mean, there's tons of great Batman stuff out there that doesn't have the Joker. Mm-hmm. If he can't be Reed Richards without Victor Von Doom, then we already have a problem.
Yeah.
You know, step one. I mean, that's just kind of like saying, oh, there's no Superman without Lex Luthor. Well, I guess Man of Steel is fucked then because, you know, because he ain't in it. And he ain't in Batman vs. Superman either.
Yeah. It's just some kid here.
It's just some dude. Check out our worst character portrayals episode.
Yeah, man. That is an interesting take that there is no Reed without Doom. I don't think I agree with that notion.
No. Yeah, if that's the case, we might as well go ahead and hang it up.
Right.
Just go ahead and throw this one on the pile of bad Fantastic Four movies.
I mean, to that homie, I would say that I think you're a little mistaken. Like, there is no Reed without his family.
Yeah.
If you take that away from Reed, then we definitely don't have the same man. You know,
right? We
end up with Multiverse of Madness Reed Richards, whose arrogance by far outweighs his intellect.
Yeah,
you know,
student Reed Richards. Wanda, why have you come here? Quickly, before you get started, let me explain everyone's powers to you.
My name is Reed Richards. I am the world's smartest man.
Yeah.
And I can stretch.
Yeah, and I can stretch. And this is Black Bolt, and he can disintegrate you with his voice. And that over there is... Oh, fuck. Huh. You kill Black Bolt. All right, well, I guess the introductions are over. Let's go.
That was awfully rude of you, Wanda.
Yeah.
John Malkovich is in this.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are speculating who he could be. The most common theory I've been hearing is Red Ghost, who is an old school Fantastic Four villain. I mean, he looks like Red Ghost. If I'm being honest, Red Ghost is like a old school late '60s Russian character who has an array of. I'm going back to like the fucking old school Red Ghost comics that I've read, or Fantastic Four comics with him in it. the thing that I remember the most about him are his super apes. He has like a league of super monkeys. That he uses to, fight crime and whatnot.
I'm hoping that if he is in the movie, they're going to dodge that. They're just going to not do that.
It is less corny than what I am describing, but that is like the basis. He has other things like he himself is also a very formidable foe. He has like a lot of what'd you call it, like Kitty Pryde powers or like vision, where he can just kind of phase through shit, make himself tangible or intangible at will, different parts of his bodies at a time. He can turn invisible. Oftentimes when he does so, he leaves like a red mist behind, hence the name Red Ghost. So it sounds like he is probably going to be the main physical threat. I got a feeling that there's something else going on in the movie too, though.
Yeah. You don't put Silver Surfer and Galactus in it for no reason.
Right. So, I mean, Red Ghost, he is a decision that you guys can definitely make. I probably would have gone with like Molecule Man. Hell, even Mold Man. But, I mean, what can you do? So, and again, this hasn't been confirmed yet. It's just high speculation right now.
We also don't get hardly any of Human Torch in the movie.
No, we don't.
There's like one shot of Joseph Quinn.
Yeah. We see, I think, 2 shots, and then do we see one of him with the Human Torch flame on? So one shot we see of him, he's like in his bedroom with a football helmet on, and I'm like, that's an odd way to masturbate.
Well, you gotta protect your neck.
Oh, yeah, sure.
You never be too careful.
Their universe is superior then because it's the 60s and they already got Wu-Tang.
Yeah, well, Wu-Tang is forever.
That's true. Oh, shit. The other shot we get of him, I believe, he's like in Earth's upper atmosphere and he's like starting to fall.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you should probably do the flame on thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't get a whole lot of him. Then again, this is technically a teaser. This is one of those teasers that feels like a trailer, but it's not.
Not like the Thunderbolts teaser, which was like 6 minutes.
They were like, we really got to sell people on this one.
Speaking of up and coming Marvel stuff, a week from now we will be in the theater. Actually, by now we'll actually already be out. We'll already be recording the review for you guys. Yeah. So we will have that Captain America Brave New World review up in a hurry for you guys. So,
man, any last minute thoughts or speculations as to what we could see, surprises or anything?
Honestly, I'm trying to keep my expectations pretty tempered. I am very optimistic about this movie. I think it's going to be really good. I hope it's going to be really good.
Right.
The trailers look dope, right? I mean, if it's this kind of psychological thriller where Giancarlo Esposito just kind of leads them on this like kind of path to get what he wants, which is gonna ultimately involve unleashing the Red Hulk. Mm-hmm. I'm all here for it. I think it could be incredible. On the other hand, they could fuck it all the way up.
So I don't know how long it takes for like the VFX department to do certain things, but we know there were a lot of reshoots and whatnot.
Yeah. And the budget is like,
ooh boy,
absurd.
Through the roof. But I do wonder, and this is just speculation on my part here, I have no hardcore evidence of anything. I feel that like maybe one of the original viewings of this movie, that Red Hulk was maybe only in it at the end.
Yeah.
And hopefully the reshoots have found a way to include him maybe in a more meaningful manner throughout the movie. Because if he is just at the end of the movie, I would actually be okay with that if they had not shown him in the trailers.
Right.
Or the marketing material or anything like that.
Right.
But the fact that they have leaned so heavily into showing us Red Hulk, he's got to be in that for more than just 8 minutes at the end of the movie.
I was reading the other day, though, that they actually expect this movie to make its money back.
Oh, yeah?
Unless it's just god-awful, right? But a lot of the interest is actually in the older audience because of Harrison Ford. And I believe that because, like, I had two different people be like, I didn't know Harrison Ford was playing the Hulk. And I was like, well, that's not exactly right, but we don't have time for this discussion.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, I want to see that. And I was like, all right. Well, I mean,
yeah.
The other thing, too, is, like, there's nothing big coming out for, like, a month.
Yeah.
So it's going to be the top movie. It's going to be the only, like, really big budget release in theaters for, like, 4 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, it's not like, oh, Marvel's definitely going to lose money on this thing. They actually could make the whole budget back.
That would be impressive because with marketing, they need to make what? 600 million?
Yeah.
This dude, yeah, they can make it back. This is still a Captain America movie, so they can make that money back.
I mean, not to mention, if it's well received, word of mouth will carry it.
Yeah.
I mean, Deadpool and Wolverine made a ton of money.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So. I think that actually overdid what they thought it was going to do.
Yeah, it well overshot it because I was originally reading 800 to 900 million, and that thing was like, nah.
Yeah.
Pump those numbers up.
Those rookie numbers.
Well, maybe if they take some of the things that we're going to talk about tonight and they applied them to this characters in this movie, then maybe we'll be good to go.
Maybe, although it would be way too late by that point.
Yeah. We got to do some more reshoots before Thursday.
Like, we've already sent the movie out.
Yeah.
Well,
make it happen, Captain. Literally.
Well, homies, one and all, we would like to welcome you guys back to another very special episode of the Superhero Homies podcast. My name is Quentin, and as always, I'm here with my illustrious co-host, the man of every hour. He has the coolest shirts and knows more about the cosmos than anyone else on the planet, including Brandon Sanderson. I'm talking about the homie Caleb.
I don't think I know more about the Cosmere than Sanderson.
I believe in you.
I don't think I'm even in like the top 25 most Cosmere knowledgeable people.
Listen, this came straight from the committee, the same committee that said Dylan was the biggest anime weeb on the planet, so it's got to be true.
Now, that actually might be true. He's not, but I do have a lot of Cosmere knowledge. I actually might get to share some of it tonight. So we'll see how that goes.
That's called foreshadowing. It is a storytelling element.
Yeah. But I am happy to be here, and more than that, I'm happy to, number one, not be reviewing anything, and number two, be talking about something that we enjoy.
Yeah. And, I mean, there's so much going on right now. It's funny, right? Like, when it comes to this podcast, there's, like, moments of plenty and then moments of famine where, like, there's nothing. And then, all of a sudden, there's, like, a shit ton. So, like, obviously, we just talked about, like, Jurassic World and Fantastic Four. You know, we have Captain America coming up. But we haven't even spoken about My Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man or Invincible Season 3. And, like, those things are really recent. It just came out as well, so...
what you want to do with Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man? You want to split it in half?
I think that'd be wise. How many episodes is that going to be?
I don't know. We should probably find that out because otherwise we're not going to know what half is.
That is how that works.
Real quick, what do you think about the first 2 episodes?
I actually really enjoyed it, and I think that like if this was like one of the few renditions of Spider-Man we've ever seen, I'd be a little frustrated at some decisions. But because, like, we've seen Spider-Man's origin several times in different incarnations of Spider-Man over the years, I have no problem seeing another incarnation or rendition of Spider-Man. So I think that it keeps it fresh. I think it's well-paced. The animation style took a little getting used to for me. I love the opening sequence with Doctor Strange. I thought it was one of the best showcases of Doctor Strange's powers in the MCU. No, it's got my attention so far. So I'm curious to see where this goes, and I'm starting to feel like it not being connected to our MCU Peter Parker is probably for the best because they can go different directions and do different things. Could you imagine if Tom Holland's Peter Parker got bit by an interdimensional spider?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in this universe, like, he must be, like, blood related to, like, Uncle Ben. And then he married May because Peter Parker is Jewish. And Aunt May is, like, a fine Puerto Rican lady.
Right.
And I know a fine Puerto Rican lady when I see one, okay? That's what the animation is. I do love how they did the Norman Osborn scene. They swapped the Tony Stark scene out like exactly.
Yeah.
I also think that this art style is like the closest I've ever seen to like the pages. Originally I had no expectation for this. Yeah. But now it's like the best episode of What If. It's just a really long
What If episode, yeah. But I don't know what you call it. What if Peter Parker got bit by an interdimensional spider and then he proceeded to live life like it was the MCU, but instead of Tony Stark, it was Norman Osborn and he got selected to go into the special school.
It's a very long episode title. I think it's just like, what if Peter Parker was mentored by Norman Osborn instead of Tony Stark? I think maybe this.
You think that'll do it?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like mine too, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay.
Okay.
He probably needs a little. I think the marketing is going to need to take a look at, do little focus groups.
You don't think people can remember what if Peter Parker got bit by an interdimensional spider?
I don't even think you can remember it. And you just said it like 3 minutes ago. Not even.
Oh, shit. I've only seen the first 2 episodes so far.
I think that's all that's out, or did a new one come out today?
I imagine a new one probably came out today.
Yeah.
But, no, I'm intrigued so far. And you've seen both episodes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
I also saw the internet thirsting like a motherfucker over Dr. Connors.
Which is a statement I never thought I would hear. I mean, like, Dr. Kurt Connors? Like the Lizard Man? Like, I'm missing something. Holy shit. Yeah, it was an interesting choice, right? And like I'm not mad at what they did with the character. I'm not talking about the thirsty motherfuckers online. I'm a little mad at them. Because again, like, this is a different universe. Things are obviously different here, and it's like a fresh coat of paint on something that's still very familiar. So, yeah, I dig it.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where it goes.
Yeah, it should be good though.
Well, folks, we have a surprise episode for you guys tonight.
That we do. Tonight we will be talking about some of our favorite characters who have exuded certain characteristics that we think should be exemplified, right, or shown. So for tonight's episode, what I really wanted to do was talk about characters that really kind of had an impact on us and talk about what makes them so cool and unique. Talk about what makes them so special. So for example, this is not one that I assume is on any of our list, but still he fits the bill. Iron Man. For example, this is Tony Stark is clearly a character that since 2008 especially has resonated with audiences. And it's interesting because on the Superhero Homies Facebook page, I shared like a video of comic book characters' popularity over the years, and you can clearly see when Iron Man isn't even on the list to being like in the top 5, and it clearly correlates a lot with obviously his big screen MCU introduction, and obviously with Tony Stark or with Robert Downey Jr. playing that character, we know part of what makes him so special is he was able to bring that charisma, that levity, and that sense of intelligence and arrogance to the big screen. And he did so in a way that felt real and genuine, because a lot of that I feel RDJ just naturally embodies. And along with like a competent script, a cool and interesting villain, they were able to make not Robert Downey Jr., they were able to make Iron Man a household name just like that in 2008.
I mean, both of those are correct.
That is true. But so that's just like a really brief, too long didn't read excerpt for what we're doing tonight. Is we're looking at characters. They don't have to be good guys. They don't have to be bad guys. Just characters in general, and they don't have to be comic book characters either. They can be from whatever kind of medium. And we're going to be looking at these characters and dissecting what makes them so special and what makes them resonate with people. So,
I mean, you are. I had Iron Man, Invincible Iron Man, Unstoppable Iron Man,
Spectacular Iron Man,
Extremist,
Superior
The
Iron
Adventures
Man.
of Howard Stark. That's my whole list.
War Machine.
Yeah.
Shit, my bad, dog. Well, homies, we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, next time. Oh, do you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
You can go first.
Okay. Let me pick one from my list here. This is a good one to start with. On my list, I have Lex Luthor from Smallville.
Michael Rosenbaum.
Yes, Michael Rosenbaum. And I actually think that this incarnation of this character tends to work better than it. I haven't read a lot of Superman comics, so I will say that I can't really go there. But I will say that out of all of the live action or animated Lex Luthors that we've got, this one to me is vastly superior to the others. A lot of that has to do with some kind of changes to the backstory where Lex and Clark knew each other and were friends, right? And Lex is only a little bit older than him. I think maybe he's got to be at least like 4 years older than him, because Clark is in high school at the beginning and Lex is already out of school. So, we get introduced to Lionel Luthor in this, and Lionel is pretty much a piece of shit from jump, right? From day one. And in Lex's backstory in Smallville, the meteor shower that Clark came in with actually hit him, and basically everyone else in Smallville as the show. Yeah. Because, everyone has some kind of shit from the meteor shower. But with him in particular, he was a redhead like we typically see Lex, a younger Lex, and he lost his hair from the meteor shower, and all the other kids picked on him. And so while he is a rich kid, he's also an outcast. And so he didn't have a whole lot of friends. He also lost his brother. They don't really bring his sister into the series until later, because there's like a long lost sister or something that comes in. It's not like it was in the most recent CW incarnation or whatever. So his backstory is actually really dark. So his mother was his dad had her committed because in a fit of postpartum depression, she smothered his little brother to death.
Damn.
Yeah. But Lex basically repressed the memory, and so Lex actually believes he's responsible for his little brother's death. So, and then all that happens, and of course Lionel is incredibly shitty to him his whole life. He's all, you're a disappointment. You should be at the corporation with me at LexCorp and learning the, corporate ladder and all that stuff, and not out doing all this other stuff. And
who do you think is a better father, Lionel Luthor or Norman Osborn?
I mean, in this Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man show, or just in general?
Just in general.
I think it's probably Norman Osborn still, actually. I don't think either one of them are great, but I think it's still... but yeah, Lionel is, he's very much Lex also in this is really philanthropic. Yeah. He uses his wealth to help people, or help people start businesses, things like that. And his dad is very much, of course, against him using it for all that. But the most interesting thing about all of this is he meets Clark Kent. He accidentally hits Clark with his car, and his car and Clark tumble into the river. And of course, Lex is knocked out. Clark pulls him to safety or whatever. And when Lex comes to, he's like, "Man, I could have swore I hit you, but I must not have, because you're standing here." So,
Meanwhile, there's a Clark-sized dent in his car.
Yeah, his car's all fucked up. So I think the first 2 seasons or so, you actually get this really awesome friendship between him and Clark. And you see where, if he had remained with his dad, because his dad actually sent him away from Metropolis to live in Smallville, and as a punishment. And when he meets Clark, he sees the good in Clark, and Clark makes him want to be a better person.
Right.
And you can really see how, like, he's always got this dichotomy of, like, the son that his dad wants him to be and then, like, the person he wants to be.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is because of Clark. And so him and Clark had, like, the same circle of friends. Clark's dad, of course, is incredibly suspicious of the Luthers in general. Mm-hmm. And he ends up kind of casting a lot of doubt on Lex because he's like, oh, you know, all those Luthers are the same. You know, they're just a bunch of rich people out to, like, try to get one over on you, whatever. And at first, like, that's actually not true about Lex. But his dad just kind of lumps him in with his family. Anyway.
Right.
But Lex kind of sees Clark as, like, this brother that he never had. And eventually, he finds out about Clark having powers. And he's just like... And it's, like, way after, like, pretty much all the other, like, people, like, right around him find out.
Yeah.
Like, Pete Ross and all of them have all already found out. And so, you know, he's kind of just like, you never told me, man? Like, through all this stuff, like, I treated you like a brother. But he doesn't, you know, he doesn't do what you kind of would expect, especially from, like, CW writing. He's not immediately like, fuck you, I hate Superman. You know, he's just like, I would have kept your secret, man. Mm-hmm. You know, you could have trusted me with this all along. And then, like, his dad finds out that Lex knows. And so he has Lex put in Belle Reve. Oh. And Clark comes to visit him, and he's like, hey, man, just break me out of here. You can get me out of here, like, right now. And Clark's like, no, man, I can't do that. And even though Clark knows that his dad, like, there's no reason for Lex to be in there, that his dad's just done all this shit. And, like, that's where the ball starts rolling, where he's just like, hey, man, I don't think you're my friend at all, actually. And so, like, the reason that I love this incarnation of Lex is just because they had that long-form storytelling where it was a much more human approach to him as a character. And it's a very slow descent. Like, you know, when everything happens with Clark, he doesn't immediately pull out of their group of friends. Like, he doesn't trust Clark anymore. Mm-hmm. But it, you know, it just kind of slowly turns to, like, okay, well, Lex is, like, using his money to, like, help people in the community. And then it becomes, oh, well, you know, I'll fund your business if you help me get a hold of some kryptonite. And, like, you know, it just kind of, and then he's like, oh, well, I'm going to start doing research on shit. And then next thing you know, he's, like, cloning himself and, you know.
As one does.
Yeah, he's doing Lex things. So you really got to see this very slow kind of descent into being the villain that we know him as. And Michael Rosenbaum just did an amazing job with all of that, right? And I think that's the main reason that this version of him worked, is because you can see why Lex would have felt this way. And you get to see him sort of, he's very much balanced on that edge of, like, is he going to be able to be a good person, or is he going to follow in his father's footsteps? And Clark has the opportunity to pull him in his direction, but ultimately, like, because of who Clark is, you know, he ends up not trusting Clark at all, and it ends up going completely in the other direction to where he's actually worse than his dad.
Yeah, I always thought that the Lex stuff was probably, like, the best thing about the show.
Oh yeah, hands down. Yeah. When he leaves the show, it tanks hard. Yeah.
But then he comes back.
He does come back for, like, one episode.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah, he's only in the finale.
Wow. Oh, so Mike Rosenbaum was done, and then they got him to come back for the finale.
Yeah, and the finale was awesome. Mm-hmm. Like, Lex had already got blown up, so, like, they basically did this thing where Lionel, like, Lex had made several clones of himself, and, like, the clones kept getting killed. Like, they just, and as it turns out, like, his hatred for Clark becomes to the point where it's, like, embedded in his DNA. Because, like, Lionel actually goes and gets, like, an earlier DNA sample from, like, before he knew or whatever. And, like, that Lex still just comes out the tube, like, hating Clark. Like, and so basically Lionel pieces all of the, like, remaining parts from the clones together the best he can, and then he makes a deal with Darkseid to like put Lex back in the clone's body.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it goes way off the rails.
I was just about to say that. This shit goes off the rails.
Yeah, Smallville at the end was like way off the rails, especially the last season. And so yeah, like that's who he technically is, but the final scene between the two of them is actually quite good. It's probably the only thing worth a damn in the entire last season.
Oh.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Well, there's a reason it's the last season, you know?
Yeah, they really, I don't think they had anything. Because they come back and there's 2 Zod seasons. They do another Zod season in season 9. And it's not bad. It's actually pretty good. But
it's all just 11 seasons is so much for a prequel show.
Oh, it was only 10.
My bad.
There is 11 seasons, but the TV show was only 10. They actually did an 11th season as a comic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there's a comic book series of the 11th season. I have no idea what it's about. I've never read it.
Yeah.
I assume it's about Superman and Lex Luthor.
One would assume.
Because he becomes Superman at the end, so.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a long road to becoming Superman.
Yeah.
It's a real long road.
You could tell that they, like, were trying to avoid everything they possibly could, because I think it's season 7 or 8 is where they move to Metropolis, and Lex buys the Daily Planet and just has them start publishing whatever he wants, his propaganda and shit.
He hires J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah, right. And then he becomes the Blur.
I remember that. He's the red, blue Blur.
Yeah.
I was like, how long did y'all take storyboarding that name?
Yeah.
And why didn't you take more time?
Eventually, he gets the black suit as like a nod to the black suit Superman, where he's got like a trench coat and all that shit.
Goddamn. I remember that. I think I saw the first 6 or 7 seasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never got around to finishing it. But I always thought that Rosenbaum, that his performance was spectacular, and that like his chemistry with Tom Welling was really what was selling it for me.
That show is the Clark and Lex show, and when it's not about them, it's pretty bad.
Come on, man! I know you're a big fan of Christian Cruick, right? That's your
but in a true Lex Luthor thing, I don't know if you ever got this far, but like they never did. Well, they eventually did Lois, and I actually really loved the chick that got to play Lois in this. I can't remember her name right now.
I did get to the Lois stuff,
but she's great. But the reason that like he ended up like not being able to be with Lana is because Lex fucking implanted kryptonite in her skin. That is some Reverse Flash level bullshit.
That is Reverse Flash level hate.
Yeah. I'm gonna kidnap your girl, and I'm gonna put the one thing that fucking can kill you in her skin.
and I put gold kryptonite in her. What's that do? It's anti-erection, Clark. You can never get it up when you're around her.
Oh my god. I'm pretty sure that's what the green does too.
Yeah,
just among other things.
True, amongst everything else. No, you might be able to tough it out with green. Like you won't like it.
Yeah. You might throw up a couple of internal organs.
Yeah, that too.
But
no, I think that's a really good choice though, man, because the Michael Rosenbaum version of Lex obviously had the most time to breathe, but more than that, he, for the most part, was handled very well. You know?
Yeah.
Like they took their time with it, and typically with shows of that nature that go on that long, that have that many episodes per season, they typically do this thing that I hate when it's a lot of teasing, like, oh man, maybe he'll do it here, and then they let off the gas, and then maybe he'll do it here.
Yeah.
And it's like, bro, just stop, But I feel like this show actually did a pretty good job with like how they handled that whole transition. So, yeah, and I do agree. Like he is the best live action Lex Luthor that we've gotten. I'm curious to see what Nicholas Hoult will do with the role.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see that too. And I honestly, it's hard to tell from the trailers whether he's gonna be like a villain in the movie.
Yeah.
They may wait on that.
They might. But no, I got a feeling that motherfucker got a gun. He's definitely got to be a villain.
Oh yeah, I mean he got a gun,
that automatically means bad guy.
I honestly hope that Nicholas Hoult just goes full like Bond villain.
Yeah.
With it,
He could. I'm hoping that he maybe leans more into like Superman animated series type Lex, or like or All-Star Superman Lex.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be. I mean, obviously, James Gunn said that All-Star Superman is a big inspiration for the movie, but on that same note, it's like pulling off that version of Lex is like such a complexity, you know.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I like Nicholas Hoult. I don't know if he can pull that off. I don't know very many people that could pull it off.
Yeah, that's tricky, right? And it would be difficult. On a slightly unrelated note, man, Nicholas Hoult, he's the guy has so much talent, right? But he's always like 1B in the movies, right? So like he auditioned to play Batman and he lost out to Pattinson. He auditioned to play Superman, lost out to Corn Sweat. It's like, goddamn, man, like you can't catch a break.
Isn't he in the new Jurassic World Rebirth too?
Is he? I don't know.
I think he might. I think he also. He's
no, that was Mahershala Ali.
That's not who I mistake for him. Mahershala Ali was like, "Oh man, I'm so glad I had to make this piece of shit Blade movie. What you got for me?" And they were like, "Here you go." And he was like, "God damn."
Oh yeah.
Bring me some fangs. God damn.
He was like, "Do I even live in this one?" They were like, You're the only black guy, man. So
yeah, Samuel L. Jackson, it didn't go well for him in the first one.
No. Well, one of them had to die because LL Cool J was also in Deep Blue Sea.
That's true.
So
motherfucking shark
ate me.
Oh, all right, man. Who you got for your first one?
My first one, I will go with. All right, so my first one here, I will go with none other than Matt Murdock himself, Daredevil.
Oh,
yeah,
very good.
Yeah, man. This is a character that, as we've mentioned ad nauseum on this podcast, like he was on the verge of being straight up canceled, not in like the 2020 kind of cancel, but like they were literally going to cancel his book. Back in the 70s because it just wasn't working out. He was a guy who was extremely acrobatic, who could swing from building to building, who wore a red jumpsuit, and he made quips, and people were like, we already have Spider-Man, and he's literally amazing.
And he was Temu Spider-Man before Temu existed.
Right. They were like, we don't know what a Temu is, but that's exactly what version.
Yeah, for some reason, I feel like that's what we have.
And so he was on the verge of being canceled. And it wasn't even necessarily that his book was bad. It just felt like it was familiar. And, I mean, Spider-Man was the it kid. You weren't going to top Spider-Man. You weren't going to outdo Spider-Man at his own thing. And so they decided to give the book to this new young upstart. And they said, worst case scenario, if it flops, we can still cancel it. Maybe put him in a team-up book. That used to be the move back in the day. Back in the day, when a comic book was doing badly, they would either put that character in a team-up book or put him with, a new writer, see if it sold. And if none of that worked, then, they just cancel the book, maybe shove him in the back of a team somewhere. Nowadays, they're like, you will like this character, and we will do 15 restarts if we have to.
Yeah. You will enjoy this character.
But, they gave it to Frank Miller. And Frank Miller, because the book was doing so poorly, they pretty much gave him free reign to do whatever he wanted to do. And because of that, Frank was able to change everything about the book. He changed the tone. He gave Matt that, I believe it was Frank that gave Matt that Catholic background. He gave it that dark and gritty feel. He created new characters like Elektra. He, just really retooled the whole Daredevil book and immediately started giving some amazing stories. And it just changed the book around completely. And it really did wonders for Frank Miller. Hell, it did so good for him. A couple of years after that, he went to DC and they said, "Hey, man, how about you do Batman?"
Yeah, yeah.
But the reason why Daredevil is just such a cool and I don't want to say relatable, but like he's such a cool character so many people resonate with is because similar to what I was saying about RDJ earlier, you know, you look at like the 2014, 2015 era of Netflix when this show was just coming out, and so many people were interested because one, Marvel was at the top of their game back at that point. You know, you weren't going to top Marvel in anything live action.
Right.
And seeing that the street level heroes were now getting their TV shows, well, at that point, Arrow was still doing pretty darn good. And I think The Flash just started as well.
Right.
And people wanted to see how this was going to compare or stack up. And obviously, people who were familiar with the comic books really wanted to know if they could match the gravitas of it. You know, could they get the tone right? Could they get that Catholic guilt right? Could they manage the double life properly? You know, how are they gonna do this and do it justice without it feeling corny or goofy like the 03 movie or 04, whatever it was. And they had a great answer for it. They had Joe Quesada as a consultant. Joe Quesada used to be the editor-in-chief for Marvel Comics, and he was one of the main consultants for the TV show. And they had just a phenomenal cast of people, phenomenal crew of people that helped put together a tremendous comic book TV show. And when you have Charlie Cox as Daredevil, he just, I mean, when you talk about perfect casting, I think his name needs to be mentioned more often.
Yeah.
And I think that this TV show, it really showed people just how cool and sleek this character is. And it was one of those cases where we were able to see what it looks like when a comic book character is able to be lifted from the pages and put on the screen. And they were able to make it the way that Frank made it for comic book readers back in like the late 70s, early 80s, where it felt like he was very cool, but yet very gritty. It was dark and it was well paced with great street level stories to tell. And I mean, it just did wonders. And I mean, that show resonated with so many people, right? And I've always loved that about the Daredevil show because they had the cool action scenes. You know, by the way, it seems like episode 2 is always like the big fight episodes for these seasons. So when Born Again comes out, wait for episode 2, folks. That's probably going to be the big fight showdown.
Think they'll give us 2 episodes?
They could. But they probably won't, just because they know their eyes will be on it regardless. So if they can stretch it out another week, why not?
Yeah. That's an excellent pick, man. And you're right. Like, the casting is spectacular.
Yeah.
To the point that they were like, who can we get to play Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk? And they were like, the motherfuckers we already got, because I don't know.
Yeah.
Although I do still want to see Michael Chiklis, Wilson Fisk.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That'd be great.
I hadn't even thought of that. He's definitely got the anger.
Yeah.
For sure.
But yeah, man, that's an awesome pick, and I agree with you. Like, there was just so much about the show that worked. Kind of like Smallville. The show is at its best when it's about Matt and Wilson.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like, just looking at some of their scenes together is tremendous.
Yeah. And not only that, but like, they also, with Fisk, like Wilson Fisk, and this is a very unique thing about his villain that makes it work better than any of the other street level villains in any of those shows, and really a lot better than a lot of the MCU villains in general, is Wilson Fisk exists outside of Matt Murdock.
Yeah.
Like, you see a lot of Fisk scenes that have nothing to do with Matt.
Yep.
Because he has to feel like a real person, and Matt has to feel like a real person, and so then for these two people that feel like they each have their own individual lives, for those two to crash into each other is spectacular. It's something that we want to see. And you look at it and you go, well, throughout this clash, somebody's life is getting fucked. It's normally Matt.
Yeah.
but sometimes it's Fisk too, you know? He's done lost pretty much everything except for Vanessa.
Right.
So.
and you know, like, it's so funny seeing both of those characters grow throughout the show, particularly in season 1, where they're both trying to find more footing, you know? Like, sure, Matt is he's a lawyer by day and a blind ninja, but he's blind day and night.
He's blind all the time.
Yeah, all the time. It would be weird if he was just blind at night.
The anti-bat.
Right. It didn't have the same ring.
Yeah.
You know?
No.
But it's just interesting, right? Seeing both of their paths because they're both trying to really find their way. You know, and it's not to the end when Matt kind of really assumes that Daredevil persona, you know, goes to Melvin, gets the suit, and fully realizes that this is kind of what he needs to embody. And with Fisk, he's not at the top of the food chain yet, and for the criminal enterprise until the end of season 1,
right,
close to it. And he doesn't have that same level of confidence that we typically know the Kingpin to have. But throughout the show, you see him gain more of that,
right?
And then you also see more of that rage come out, and it just becomes really cool to watch them kind of grow in their own distinct ways. But it needed to happen that way.
Yeah, I agree with that entirely, and I think too, another thing that makes the way that they shoot those shows so special is whenever they introduce new major characters, you always get to see those characters from the point of view of both of those characters. So, like for example, when Frank Castle comes around, you see how Fisk relates to him, and you see how Matt relates to him.
Yeah.
And Karen, too. Like, she often has a major relationship with these characters. The same thing with Dexter, when Dex comes around. I'm trying to think of who else, like, major really shows up. Some of the other Defenders, even.
Oh, yeah.
So that's one thing that's always been very interesting about that show is that it is really about the two of them, and then everybody else is like through the lens of these two characters for the most part.
Yeah, and you know, just on a sidebar, like I still think it was extremely shocking but effective when they killed Ben Urich in season 1.
Yeah.
I mean, I just did not foresee that happening.
Well, there's actually two really, I think, shocking deaths in that season because when Karen kills Wesley which is like was like his like right hand guy. Right. I mean, that dude was interesting. He could have been like a seasoned villain on his own.
Yeah, and like both of these are like well established comic book characters.
Yeah,
and they were both just fucking off in season 1.
Yeah, and the way that both of them are killed is like so interesting. With Karen killing Wesley, and that really like setting her character arc up like really for the whole rest of the show.
Yeah.
And then also with you know Ben
getting strangled
by Fisk. Yeah, I mean. And it kind of was like showing, like, you know, Fisk is not going to let you guys come out of this unscathed.
Right.
Like, he may not be able to stop you from winning, but you are not coming away from it clean no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we as the audience felt that. And and that's incredible.
Yeah. So hopefully we get to continue that in a couple months. No, next month, right? In March.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Nerves are setting in. But yeah, so that is my pick. I could go on and on about Daredevil. You know, watch the TV show, folks. Read the books. They're great. It's hard to find a bad one.
Yeah.
Unless you do. But, you know, there's not that many.
Yeah. Pick up Born Again. You know, you can read that. I don't think that that's what the show's going to be about because that's pretty much what season 3 of the Netflix show was about. But, okay. My next pick is one that you're very familiar with. I picked Vin from Mistborn.
Oh.
Now, there are quite a few Cosmere characters that I could have picked here because Sanderson really doesn't miss. And he has hundreds of very well-written, well-developed characters. I'd say like 99% of the time, he nails it. And that's an excellent track record. It's not 100, but nobody's got 100. That being said, I mean, even Stan Lee didn't have 100.
No.
Like,
I made Groot.
The reason I picked Vin is because I can talk about Vin freely and don't have to worry about spoiling shit for people. Unless you
haven't read Mistborn.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you haven't read Mistborn, I am about to talk about some Mistborn spoilers here. So you might just want to go about 15 minutes into the future on the episode. But the reason I picked her, she is the main protagonist for the original Mistborn trilogy. And the reason I think that most people tell, like if they want somebody to experience the Cosmere, the reason you tell people to start with Mistborn is almost entirely due to Vin. At least for me, because I think that she is a character that's very easy to fall in love with. It's very easy to see things from her perspective. She has a very traumatic backstory. She's kind of a street urchin who, she's a young girl in a very cruel society. There's nobody really to protect her. All the people that should have protected or looked out for her have failed brutally at their jobs. And like her brother, who is also shitty to her, but like he's all she's got,
right?
Just kind of goes missing. And from there, Vin is sort of the eyes that you get to see this world from that's very unlike our own. And you get to experience and kind of grow in that world with her. And you get to see her go from somebody who lacks confidence, isn't anybody special, people don't really take notice of her, to finding out that she has this incredible power set. And that she can do all of these, really incredible things. And she's got this very rare sort of gift in that she is a Mistborn, which is very, very rare in this world. And there's a couple things with that, right? Like, it's a very unique power set. It's not like things that we tend to see in other mediums. Right. Magneto is probably the closest thing, and even then, that only covers 2 of her many abilities.
Right.
So she is the eyes and ears that we get to learn about the magic systems from, because we learn about the magic systems as she's being trained on them. We learn about the high society of this world as she's learning about it. And she's just a character that it's very easy to experience that world with her. And they also, like, Brandon really dodges a lot of main character tropes, especially like female main character tropes. You can tell that this is a very well-rounded character. This isn't somebody who sat down and went and started their story with, oh, I want a protagonist that meets this criteria, whatever that criteria might be, so he didn't sit down and go, okay, well, I want a female protagonist. Like, he wrote a character that is a female that's very well-rounded and avoids a lot of the typical tropes that you see out there for main characters in general. And I'll say, too, that while she's a very competent character, I think that people like competence in characters in general. I think that incompetence in a character is the quickest turnoff for like a general audience. But that being said, I think that while she's very competent, that doesn't mean that she's flawless, right? We get to see her make mistakes. And the mistakes that she does make, you're looking at it like, I probably would have done the same shit. And sometimes those things turn out badly for her or the people around her. And I think that all of those things combined are just really what makes her work as that central protagonist. And she doesn't have all the answers in the story.
Yeah.
She has to rely on the people around her to essentially save the world, And without any number of them, just one person, 1 or 2 of those people could be missing, and she doesn't get to do it.
Yeah, and the whole thing falls apart.
Yeah.
It's just the signs of a really good storyteller, because especially looking at like what you just mentioned about her being competent but not flawless. She doesn't have all of the answers. She's not this, you know, she's not, like you said, Sanderson, he avoids a lot of the typical tropes. You know, she's not written like an idiot, you know.
Right.
Because oftentimes when writers want to show a character that has flaws, they sometimes mistakenly write them as being dumb.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen here. You know, she makes very human mistakes, but not just straight up idiotic mistakes.
Yeah.
Know? And on the flip side, the other thing you see is, well, I want a strong, competent character, and then we end up with the Ray Palpatine.
Right. Yeah.
And that's like the other side of the coin, of the awful coin.
They're the strongest fighter and the best pilot and the best strategist and
the bestest at everything, and with zero real training or anything.
Right, yeah. And there's no growth because you started at 100 in all your stats.
Yeah. Where do you go from there? You know, you got to get mods to get better.
You got all the skill trees maxed all the way out
it's like,
from birth.
Yeah, this game is kind of boring. You know,
Vin is really, I mean, the anti-Ray. You know,
she is.
It's just kind of the exact opposite.
No, she really is, because you know she listens to her mentor.
Yeah, for one.
For one, that's one of the many differences. She has such an amazing journey. Like, you look at her at like the third act of book 3 versus the first act of book 1, and you'd be like, these are the same people, huh?
Right.
Because like that journey and that growth is so exponential that, you know, she's just, circumstances, be they good or bad, have just transformed her into a completely different person. And it's natural growth, right? It's where, like, if you look back at yourself from 15 years ago, you're like, well, yeah, that's clearly me, but it's a different me. You know? And that's kind of how it is with Ray. Not with Ray. God damn.
No, it's not how it is with Ray at all.
That's how I wish it was with Ray.
Yeah. With Vin.
With Vin. But, you know, the thing about it is, though, is that by the end of that journey, it's just so incredibly well done, and it's so cool to look back and just to see, again, the character growth that she had there. I really dug that about her.
Yeah, I mean, in the first book, you know, we start with her being, like I said, she's a nobody. She's lower than a nobody. She, like, works for a nobody.
Yeah.
She's the errand girl for a nobody. And by the end of that book, you know, she's like someone who has been highly trained by some of the best people at what they do. Because while she has a Mistborn as a mentor, she actually trains in the individual powers that she has with people that only have those powers.
Right.
And they're incredibly good at each one of those. So she gets to train with like the best people at using those abilities. And so it makes sense why she's so good at using her abilities, but not only that, it's not only her Mistborn powers that make her an interesting character, it's the fact that she has a different perspective than all those people around her. Mm-hmm. Because pretty much everybody else in the crew, for the most part, they all have a very similar background and a way of looking at things. But Vin grew up in an actual, like, thieves crew, and they're, like, stealing food to eat and shit. Like, you know, they aren't ripping off, like, rich people. They're, like, robbing, like, a food cart. You know what I'm saying? And so she just has a very different perspective than all of them. And that doesn't mean that she has the right answer. Sometimes she has the absolute wrong answer. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you see her go from this very helpless type character in the beginning of the first book to, in the second book, she now is taking on a protector role. She's protecting Elend, who, you know, she's in love with, and also happens to be the Emperor. And so she goes from being this person that has no one to protect her to having to protect someone and having to go through the sort of, I guess, mental rigor of that, you know?
Right.
And then, of course, in the third book, basically, like, saving the planet has just been put on her shoulders.
Yeah.
And everything that she's spent all this time doing, all this growth that she's had, is really, it's insignificant in the face of, like, what she is up against. You know, she's, it could basically all be for nothing.
Yeah, and that's a lot of pressure for a young girl, but you know.
Yeah. And I think the crazy thing is, I think she's like 19 by the end of the third book. Yeah.
Yeah. Incredible journey that young Ben had.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Goddamn. Great pick.
Yeah. Yeah. I rarely get to talk about her because usually if there's like a character for something like this, it's Kelsier.
Right.
You know? But I think Kelsier is a great character, but I think we've seen people like him before. You know, we talk about like the comparisons with him and Magneto a lot because they exist. Yeah. But with Vin, I think she's just a very unique character. Right. We've seen elements of her in other places, but I don't know that we've quite seen this recipe. Yeah. You know?
That's true. All right.
What you got?
Next up, gonna take a bit of a turn here. Walter White.
That's hilarious, man. Like, I actually almost used him, but I was like, I think Ace might have him. I was like, I'll keep that in my back pocket, though.
Yeah, man. For those of you who don't know, Breaking Bad is my favorite TV show.
It's top 3 for me. I mean, so good.
Yeah, it's excellent. And I just love what Vince Gilligan was able to do with that universe. Like, I mean, typically with something like Breaking Bad, I would say leave it alone, don't touch it. But I also really enjoy El Camino and Better Call Saul.
You know, up until like within the last few months, I was not on the Better Call Saul train. And then I finally got into it, man, and like, holy shit, it was good.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's actually more of that than there is Breaking Bad.
Yeah, there is, isn't there?
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. The prequel is longer than the actual show. But, I mean, that's the thing, though, is while the last season ties into Breaking Bad heavily, and there's also, like, a lot of tie-ins, they always made the show about Jimmy.
Yep.
They never made it about, like, it wasn't there to service Breaking Bad.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, like it wasn't 6 seasons of winks and nods, you know.
Right.
It was like an actual story about Jimmy.
And Mike. I'd say Mike too.
Yeah. And there was also a little bit of Gus.
Yeah.
You know? We get to see more of him. But yeah, Walter White though, what a fucking character. What's so great about so many of the Breaking Bad characters is that they are so fully fleshed out because they're just like paintings where all the colors are being used, because Walter White is a bad person, but he is painted with so many other shades to him though.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing about like a lot of these anti-hero type characters is that a lot of people get lost in the idea of them and they maybe over romanticize them, or they misconstrue them or take the wrong things from them. I mean, I call it the Tyler Durden effect. You know, Fight Club really did a number on a lot of people.
Right.
And I love Fight Club, by the way. I own the book even. But with Walter White, what makes him so interesting is that you see a man who has been beaten down by society, beaten down by life. And then the more the show goes on, the more you even learn about his background and how he could have been super fucking rich. He could have been maybe in a happier marriage. You know, it's hard.
Right.
I mean, he could have been, you know, he could have lived the life that he wanted to live, doing something that he really wanted to do, but things just didn't quite work out that way. And he's in this life now, and he seems like he's fine with where he is. You know, he has a wife. I wanted to say a loving wife. It's hard to really kind of. I'm not trying to be on the Skylar hate train right now. I'm just saying that it's hard to kind of measure where their marriage is at the beginning of the series. It's like their marriage is existing. I wouldn't say it's thriving.
Hear me out here. The worst character in the history of fiction.
Oh, you know, I saw a video online the other day, and I had to scroll past it, but they said something like they can't believe that there are people out there who just hate on Skylar White for no reason, And I was like, yeah, I can't believe people hate on her for no reason either.
Yeah.
There's plenty of reasons to hate on her.
Tons of reasons.
But, you know, he's in this marriage that maybe isn't quite thriving, but it is still held together, if nothing else, for the love of their son, Walt Jr., who Walter loves very much. And while he may not love being a school teacher, he loves science, and he gets to deal with that every day.
Science, bitch.
Science, bitch. And so Walter, he's existing, you know, and he's finding joy in spurts wherever he can. But for the most part, you can tell that there's just not a lot going on with him. I'll never forget the sad happy birthday hand job that he gets in like episode 1.
It's like the first episode.
Yeah, I'm like, oh man, this.
And that tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah. And then if things weren't mundane enough in Walter's life, he gets the diagnosis that he has cancer. And, you know, this kind of lights a fire under him because he's realizing that not only are these treatments extremely expensive, but I don't have the resources to provide for my family if I'm gone.
Right.
And it's looking like I may be out of here. So I want to do what I can for them before I skedaddle. And he uses his knowledge of chemistry, and he comes up with this insane idea. And you've all have seen the TV show. He pairs up with J.C. Pinkman, a former student of his, who knows the street life and who knows about drug dealing, who knows magnets. And science, bitch.
Fuck yeah, magnets.
And they form a bond that is unlike any you've probably ever seen. and that is the introduction to Breaking Bad. And now what we get along the way is a man who goes from being unsure of himself, just zero negative confidence in himself, and zero regard for joy of life. There's just nothing going on. To him, being exhilarated by the idea of making the purest meth that he can possibly make, by making the most money that he's ever made, from laundering the money. He goes from being this almost shy and timid kind of guy to being, I am the one who knocks, to being Heisenberg, to telling his DEA brother-in-law to tread lightly when you fucking with me. You know, that's an exact quote.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, his transformation was just absolutely crazy, because he goes from being the person who no one notices in a room full of people to the guy who is a monster. And he made excuses maybe to himself all throughout the series, but it's not really until the end of the show where he admits that, yeah, I did it for me. It made him feel alive. And the writing's on the wall for Walter. You can tell that it made him feel alive, that it gave him life to do this thing, because nothing else in his life really seemed to work out the way he wanted to. And it cost him everything in the end, you know? But what a fucking journey it was to watch this character. Now, why did he resonate with people so much? For several reasons. One, I think a lot of people maybe live lives that they wish were more exciting and more exhilarating, that they could kind of escape from their hamster wheel to do this thing that is extravagant. I think a lot of people would love to get away and to do that kind of off-the-wall shit. I think a lot of people would love to transform who they are into something else. But ultimately, I think that it's just the idea of there being this guy who's so unassuming, who does the most like off the wall shit that's ever been done in Albuquerque, you know?
Yeah. And the thing about it too is, like, when you look at the dynamic with him and Jesse, I would say until the last season, Jesse is like the only person who really is aware of what he's capable of. Mm-hmm. Like, even when Hank and them like catch Jesse like trying to burn his house down or whatever, and they're like, yeah, I mean, we'll put you in protective custody, we'll record this stuff, whatever. And Jesse's like, he will fucking kill all of us. Yeah. Like, I don't, and they're just, and even at this point, Hank already knows about him, but even Hank is just like, Walt?
Right.
Really? And Jesse's like, he had like 10 people killed in various prisons within like 30 minutes of each other, or 30 seconds of each other.
He poisoned the kid to hide his tracks.
Right, yeah. He poisoned the kid. I mean, he didn't shoot that other kid, but like he watched Todd shoot him.
Right.
And then was just like, well, you know, Todd gonna Todd. He was like, you know, I don't agree with it, but we got work to do.
Right.
Now, Todd, say you're sorry.
Shit is crazy.
Yeah.
And you know, just like to see some of the ingenious shit that he does, man. And it's interesting, right? Because all the while, you know that he's, I mean, similar to Vin Mackey, right? You know he's a bad guy. You know that Vic's a bad guy, but like at the same time, you kind of want to see how far he can go with this.
I think it's interesting the comparison between the two because, like, with Vic, I think you find out a lot earlier who he is. like with Walt, I think for the first probably, I don't know what, 2 seasons, you kind of cheering for Walt, you know?
I think also when Gus comes along, it makes it easier to root for Walt because Gus is just, he is a monster.
Yeah. Gus is a monster. I mean, obviously, like, people like Tuco and, like, people like that are awful.
Yeah.
A lot of the people that he's up against are awful, bad people. And then even when that calms down, you have Skylar, who is just, I mean, a couple of rungs below fucking Joffrey Baratheon. Like, you know, just the most awful character because Skylar, like, don't get me wrong. If I found out that Kay was cooking mass amounts of methamphetamine,
holy shit,
I would be upset, right?
The crochet fair is all a goddamn front.
Yeah, it's all a front for the meth business. What I wouldn't do, though, is help her launder the money and then later try to act like it was all her.
Yeah. That is fucked up, right? And that shit is supremely fucked that she did that. And like the fact that Skylar really got away with like no jail time.
And you know the thing about it too, like Skylar benefited from that shit immensely. She condoned a lot of it. And granted, don't get me wrong. Like, Walt should have just accepted the money from Gretchen and what's his name? Stuart? Elliot, yeah. From Gretchen and Elliot. But his pride wouldn't let him.
Couldn't do it.
And pride has been the downfall of many people.
Yeah.
And you know, that applies here. But also, you know, when she finds out what he's actually doing, I get being upset about the deception, you know, and what he was doing or whatever. But at the point that she found out and like flipped shit about it, he wasn't really in that deep. They had only really killed one person. And that was self-defense, technically.
Yeah. You know, it's like Skylar, she presented like she was upset and rightly so.
Right, yeah.
But at the same time, she presented herself like she was going to be a ride or die for Walt. She was not.
No.
And I think about like, I think they definitely corrected that in Better Call Saul, like with Jimmy and Kim, you know.
Kim was incredible as a character.
She was great. Yeah. And I'm like, thank fucking goodness that like their relationship isn't Walt and Skylar.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, Walter White, man, he's just that character where you know that he's a piece of shit. And it's really like you said, it's around maybe season 2-ish or 3-ish. For me, it's like it really sinks in for everyone, like right after Gus is gone, that, oh no, Walter is truly a monster.
Yeah. Because by that point, he really is. I mean, for me, it's the end of season 2 when he could have saved Jesse's girlfriend, Jane.
Yeah.
And he just stands there and watches her die.
Yep.
That's the Vic Mackey shot cop in the face moment for me. Where it's and I mean, I'll be honest with you, man. Early Vic Mackey wouldn't have done that shit. Like
right.
That shit was cold as fuck.
Oh yeah.
You know? Like, this is someone who's never done anything to you. Mm-hmm. Like, literally, it's just in your favor for them to be dead.
Yeah, that's it.
And so you're going to stand there and watch them die.
Right.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Just because you need this motherfucker as a lab assistant.
Right. And just because you need a lab partner, you know, and then have the audacity to, as the Aryans are taking your lab assistant away, like your real rider that has been with you.
Yeah.
You'd be like, hey, hold on a second. Hey, dog, I watched your girl die. You know, just cold-blooded shit, bro.
Yeah, and not to mention, he let these motherfuckers take him as like a lab slave.
As a slave.
Yeah, like, fuck.
Right.
I mean, the shit he did.
Chain you up and have you cook for us down in our little basement hole.
The shit that he did to Jesse throughout all of this, man, is like, and it's crazy too because you kind of see him and Jesse flip. Like, when you meet Walt at the beginning, he's this very meek, like, wouldn't harm a fly, like, can't really do anything for himself. And then Jesse is just like, no thought to anything, no consequences. I got all the right solutions. I mean, Jesse's nowhere near as intelligent as Walt, right. But he's got the same fuck it, you know? And then they completely flip to the where at the end of the show, you have Walt who's like, yeah, I'm going to get this fucking 50 cal machine gun, just rig it up to the back of my car. And then, you know, you have Jesse who's in this like very powerless situation, you know? And it's like meeting Walter White is like the worst thing to ever happen to Jesse Pinkman by far.
Oh, for sure, right?
His whole life would be so much better if he never met this motherfucker.
But it's like on the flip side, if he didn't meet Walt, he'd probably be dead.
You think so?
I think so.
Well, I mean,
he would have kept slinging a low-level crank.
Well, he actually would have been in jail, right? Because Crazy 8 was an informant.
Oh, yeah.
So he probably just been in jail. Yeah. I'll be honest, man. I think I'd take jail over the shit Walt puts him through.
But, you know, by the time we get to El Camino, sure, there's all that trauma.
But, hey, he's got a nice car, and he's up in Canada.
Yeah, come on. It's great.
He gets to start over from scratch.
Who wouldn't want that, you know?
That's a great choice.
Oh, thank you.
Well, I'm going to go a little out of order here.
Okay.
Actually, you know what? No, I'm not. I'm going to circle back to that one.
All right.
My next pick is Phil Coulson from the MCU.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What a character.
Yeah. Clark Gregg played him in all of Phase 1 and then Captain Marvel and then all through Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I forgot he was in Captain Marvel, huh?
Yeah. It's like the one highlight of that movie was him and Sam. Obviously, like, there's a lot of mystery about his character.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I think really works for him. It's like they made him just this like S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, but they would give you just a little bit and you'd be like, no.
Yeah.
Come back. We'll talk about that some more. You know, I want to know about this. You know, like they have Pepper be like, oh, the cello player, are you still seeing her, whatever? And then, you know, that just kind of fades off into like the world-ending plot or whatever. Yeah. And you're just like, I wonder what she's talking about. So they always just give you a little something about him.
Yeah.
But he's this mysterious, you know, secret agent type character. And he really, in Phase 1, represented the audience. He was the audience surrogate. You know, he's seeing we're kind of seeing these things through his eyes. Mm-hmm. He represents us in this world because we're all thinking the same thing. He's like, oh, Thor's gonna be here.
Yeah.
You know, we're gonna go do Thor. Okay, the hammer. All right, you know what this is. You know, and then he's got the Captain America trading cards, and then he's all like, what if they all came together and we did the Avengers? You know, he's got that same energy that we had back then. And just along with Clark Gregg just being so good at the role. And also the other thing about him is we get to see these incredible acts of bravery from someone who is human.
Yeah.
You know, he has shield training, so he's not like just
defenseless.
some regular guy. But you know, we got gods and people with metal suits and super soldier serum and all this stuff. And here you see these incredible acts of bravery from a dude with a gun.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
his creation was like just one of the most brilliant things. You know, it's one of those humbling things that I think about because I would have never thought to make this guy and put him in these movies.
And it absolutely could have failed.
Yeah, it could have, but I mean, it didn't. Like in the way that is Clark Gregg or is it Greg Clark?
It's Clark Gregg.
Clark Gregg. It's
two first names.
Yeah, whenever someone has two first names, I am destined to fuck it up. But like the way that Clark delivers those lines are so pivotal to the success of that character because like the way he introduces himself to Tony Stark, like you know that with Tony's demeanor, he's gonna blow this guy off, you know.
Oh yeah.
Because it's like, hi, Mr. Stark. My name is,
Agent Phil
Coulson, and I'm from the Strategic Homeland of International Espionage and Logistics Division.
And Tony's been done.
He's been, done with this whole like. When he got halfway through Strategic, Tony was out.
Yeah.
But it's so cool because like us as the audience are also kind of zoning this guy out because like we don't know who he is at this point,
right?
And unless you know to listen for like the full fucking acronym of Shield,
yeah,
you're not really thinking much about it either. And also like he's just so unassuming. He just seems like a suit,
Yeah, just some suit.
Yeah, and then you realize who this motherfucker really is, and it's like oh, and also surely the Shield had been around for years. They for sure had the acronym, by that point.
Right.
Yeah. Like, yeah. Anyways, that was just a sidebar. But no, like when we see him in Iron Man 1, I'm like, oh, that was a great twist and reveal, But then we see him again and we see him in every movie in Phase 1. Well, not Cap 1, obviously. And not.
I thought he was in Cap 1 at the end when he wakes up.
Is he there?
Yeah.
I knew that Nick was there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he is there in that. Like, just in like, I think he's in the back. I don't think he has speaking lines. But yeah, I think other than that, like he's in every Phase 1. Well, he's not in Hulk.
Yeah, he's not in Hulk. Yep. He is. He's end of Iron Man 2. That's the Thor Mjolnir reveal, right?
Yeah, but he's in Iron Man 2 before then. He's the one that actually brings him the
that's right.
The what was it? The prototype reactor or whatever.
Yep.
And that's the first time we actually see the Captain America shield in the MCU if Phil is holding it.
Yeah.
He's like, because he picks it up. Tony just got laying around the house. He's like, you know what this is?
Right. It's like the proto cap shield.
Yeah.
Tony's like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, I'm gonna fucking out of here.
Is it gonna save my life?
Yeah. Well then, fucking put it right there, like where I had it.
Oh. Then we see him in. Yeah, we see him in Thor.
He's in Thor a lot.
Yeah.
And then we see him in Avengers, and
by the time we're in Avengers, like us as the audience, like we are so invested in this character.
Yeah, right, and that was a great play on their part to have him make the sacrifice play in the movie because you have this disjointed team, and they keep talking about the sacrifice play. Yep. It's at the center of Cap and Tony's banter. And out of all these superpowered motherfuckers, the person with the bravery to do it is Coulson. And his death brings the team together. And without it, there's probably no Avengers.
And I just love like that last scene of his and the lead up scene that he's in, like with Loki. He's got this fucking big ass gun. He's like, this is experimental technology from S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't even know what it does. And then like obviously he gets stabbed by Loki, and as he's dying there and Loki's about to walk away, Phil says, you won't win. You know how I know that? Because you lack conviction. And I always thought that was just an incredible line, especially to say to Loki.
Yeah, and then he blows him to pieces.
Shoots him with the gun.
And he's like, "Oh, that's what it does." This is a great line.
I love that, man. So we know that, like, actually, sidebar. So Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., is it canon or is it not?
Man, I don't know. Okay. Like, it diverges from the main timeline significantly. I wish they would just canonize it because, like, there are elements of it that are not good. Like, the first 16 episodes are bad. Like, because...
That's a long time to sit through.
It is. Well, the whole... I mean, they're not awful, but it's just... It's mediocre as fuck because it's literally just the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents doing shit. They introduce... is it Gravitron?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, Gravitron's in that shit.
Oh, okay. Huh.
Like, it's kind of like... A lot of it is Creature of the Week type shit. Sif is in an episode. That was a really good one.
That's right.
I think she's actually in 2. I think that might be a 2-parter, but a lot of it is damn near CW level, just like with a bigger budget.
Yeah.
But the problem was, you know, they greenlit Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as a concept. And then they hired a cast and built a set and all this other shit, and then they came to, I think Jonathan Nolan was involved in that.
Oh.
No, not Jonathan Nolan. Joss Whedon's brother.
Oh. Frank Whedon.
Yeah.
Bill Whedon.
Jim Whedon. Whatever. Joss Whedon's brother. Yeah. Back when people still liked Joss.
Right.
They like showed up and they were like, hey, so the next movie we're going to come out with, we know you guys made this Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, but there's not going to be a S.H.I.E.L.D. in like a few weeks.
They're like, what?
And they're like, fuck, what? So really they were just treading water waiting on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to come out.
Oh, waiting on...
or not Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but Winter Soldier to come out. And like the episode before that before Winter Soldier came out, like they timed it perfectly. Like it leads right up to it, and then the next episode after that is like right after everything goes to shit at the Triskelion. And from that moment, the show, from that moment to the very end of that first season, was like just breakneck pacing. Yeah. They brought in Bill Paxton, and he was a Hydra agent, and
nice.
And they kind of did a very similar thing with Mistborn, where it was like who on the crew is like the spy or whatever, you know, that whole thing. And they did a really convincing job of, because it was like the main cast is like 7 or 8 characters. Yeah. One of them was going to be Hydra, you know?
Yeah, statistically speaking, you know, one of them had to be.
Yeah. And they did a really good job at kind of like setting it up where it could have been almost anybody. Like you knew it wasn't going to be Coulson.
Right.
But, and then like with it being Brett Dalton's character, or is that his name in the show? Fuck. Hold on. We gotta consult the interwebs.
I always thought it would have been cool if they had Crossbones in there. Obviously not as Crossbones, because that would be like a giveaway.
Grant Ward.
Okay.
He was Grant Ward in that show. But like him being the villain, and he's like in a romantic relationship with one of the characters, which was what's her name's character?
Was it Daisy?
No, it wasn't Daisy. They definitely had like a almost like a brother sister type relationship. Mulan, what's her name?
Miss Badass.
Yeah, we saw her in a panel.
Yeah, we did
at Dragon Con.
She was great.
We should know what her name is.
We actually, because she's been in so much shit.
She's been in a ton of shit. She was in Star Wars. I really should know. Hold on. Shit. I'm getting there. Yeah, Ming-Na. Yeah. So like Ming-Na plays the cavalry in that, and like her name is exactly what it sounds like. Like when she shows up, like the people that S.H.I.E.L.D. is fighting, they lose. And so like it became this thing where she's like, I'm gonna kill this motherfucker, you know, and like him, like the two of them kind of almost had this sort of like Hawkeye and Black Widow type mentality, but instead of friends, they were enemies.
Oh.
Yeah, and so like they were always trying to kill each other.
Yeah.
And that show just went off into some really great places. I want to say that it's season 3 where they had the problem of 22 episode seasons. Mm-hmm. And so in season 3, they did 3 small arcs instead of like one 20-something episode arc. And that's when they brought in Ghost Rider.
Ghost Rider, yeah.
And that is by far my favorite live action Ghost Rider. Not that the bar was super high.
Like, yeah, that bar wasn't that high, dog. But yeah,
no, yeah,
the sentiment is fine.
But it was. I mean, that season, I'll put it up against a lot of things. It's not like True Detective season 1, right. But like
it is
right. But yeah, I mean, it was, as far as like superhero shows, I'd put it up there with almost anything.
Yeah,
probably. It's not as good as like season 3 of Daredevil, but that's the only thing I can just easily say, like, this is way better than it.
Damn.
You know, so
that's our praise.
Yeah, it was tremendous. They did so much good shit in that show, man, but I never even finished it.
And it was like the Inhuman stuff, right?
Yeah, so season 2 is actually where they did the Inhumans arc, where they discovered the Terrigen crystals or whatever, and they actually go to like some Inhuman city.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole thing just kind of became. I think Earthquake is actually Inhuman.
Yeah, she's an Inhuman.
Or
she? I forget.
Yeah,
they're the same shit.
Same shit, yeah. But of course, obviously, they never had mutants on the show anyway, so it didn't matter.
That's true. She would have had to have been Inhuman.
Yeah. So, but they really tried to make the canon similar in the early show. Like, they would do a lot to tie in. Like, they did a lot of tie-ins with Age of Ultron, and different stuff like that. But it was just later on in the show, after season 3, once we got up to like Infinity War, they mentioned Thanos like one time, and then after that they like never acknowledge anything else ever again.
That's weird.
And like the last season, they're even in space, and I'm like, the snapping happened.
Yeah.
And
all of you are still,
and everyone's still here.
Well,
no one's missing at all.
That's more ironic than the 6 original Avengers still being there.
Yeah. Like no one is missing from anywhere these characters went.
That's wild.
Yeah, they never mentioned any of it. So it's kind of like they diverged the canons right there. So I don't know, man. It feels like they're just gonna write it off as like Coulson died in Avengers and he's dead.
Yeah,
you know. But I hate that because there's some incredible stuff in this show. There's some not so great shit in it too. Don't get me wrong. Like, I didn't love season 2, but and like I said, obviously I didn't finish it. But it had a lot of really good moments that made the just mad moments worth sitting through. So,
you ever check out Agent Carter?
Yeah, I don't think I watched season 2 of that. I definitely finished the first season.
How was it?
I liked it. So Agent Carter is definitely canon because Jarvis is in Endgame. That's the same actor that plays Jarvis in the show, and like they got Howard Stark to be in like 2 or 3 episodes, but for the most part, it's the Peggy and Jarvis show, and it was pretty good, honestly. A lot of it is spy thriller espionage stuff because it's Jarvis the butler and Peggy Carter. I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do other than that.
Right.
But there was some good stuff in it. They killed some Nazis, and I love that. Yeah. G.I. Robot would approve.
He would definitely approve. Oh, shit.
The only thing he would be mad about is that he didn't get to kill those Nazis with them.
Exactly. Man, Agent Coulson. That's a character I haven't thought about in a while, man. That was a good pick. I like that. I think
what you got?
I think we'll do one more.
One more each?
Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay.
All right. Who do I want to go with for this last one, man? All right. Fuck it. I'm gonna dip back into the comic book realm. Gotta go with the big popular one before I wrap up my choices here, my selections.
You got.
We're gonna go with old Big Daddy Thanos.
Oh, look at him!
Yeah. The old Mad Titan himself. Yeah. This is a very unique character in the sense that he is a villain that people just really love.
Yep.
And I don't mean that people are rooting for Thanos to win, but they love watching him and seeing how he's going to do whatever he plans on doing. And I just love that that this character has been able to resonate with so many people, right? Like people just love seeing Thanos to the point where it's like now you kind of wonder how are they gonna top Thanos,
Right, and they still haven't.
And they still haven't. We spent a phase or two kind of treading water, and they were like, "Fuck it, hit the red button, bring back RDJ, and put him in the Doom outfit."
Right.
But the interesting thing about Thanos here is that you can tell that they really took a lot of love, care, and attention from the comic books to understand what makes this character tick, and how to translate that to the big screen. Like for example, for preparation for this episode, I went and I looked at some of the older comic books. Like obviously, people always go to Infinity Gauntlet, which is obviously a great comic book to go to if you're looking for Thanos stuff.
Of course.
But I actually think that the better comics to go to are the ones that come before it, which would be Silver Surfer Rebirth of Thanos and Thanos Quest. Obviously, Rebirth of Thanos, that's when he comes back to life with this mission from death to bring back balance to the universe. And obviously what Thanos takes from that is, mass genocide.
Right.
And the brilliant thing about this Silver Surfer book is Surfer meets Thanos for the first time, and he tries to throw hands with Thanos, but Thanos is just unfazed. And this is Silver Surfer we're talking about here,
right?
And so at that point, Silver Surfer's like, "All right, I'll listen."
Yeah.
And Thanos takes him to various planets, Earth included, and he brings up a bunch of different reasons as to why, the inhabitants are ruining the place that they live and why they're heading towards doom. He talks about Earth being overpopulated and the mass junkyards that we have, and the nuclear plants that he calls them like nuclear ticking time bombs, basically. And he goes to other planets where he's like, yeah, this planet is completely peaceful. You see the inhabitants come up and they approach us because they don't have any predators here. But he goes, but I estimate in about 20 years, they're going to run out of food. And that's going to lead to famine, and that's going to lead to war, and that's going to lead to them wiping each other out. And Silver Surfer, he's listening the whole time about all these different planets and different problems that these places have. And the Surfer's basically like, so what are you saying? And Thanos goes, well, I do have a solution, and this is something that me and my Lady Death agree on, and this is why she's brought me back so that I can enact this. But 50% of the universe's population needs to be wiped out. And Silver Surfer's like, all right, man, we're gonna throw hands again. Yeah, because I can't let you do this shit here.
He's like, I'm listening to all these things, and I'm following along with you. Wait, what?
Yeah. And so that is actually the first time that we hear what Thanos' plan is. It was in that book. And then the following Thanos book is Thanos Quest, which is phenomenal. And this is where we actually see Thanos gather the Infinity Gems. And it is tremendous seeing him go from place to place, facing all these different challenges, gathering these gems. And even though he's just like a straight up bad dude, you can't help but kind of root for him a little bit as he's trying to gather these things. It's funny because they're not all physical threats. like obviously the power gem is held by this guy who is extremely fucking powerful, and with him he has to kind of use his brain and throw hands. But then there's ones like the Grand Master has. I think he had maybe had, was it reality or time? I forget which one the Grand Master had, but he had to play like a game of chess with him, to get that one. And so like what he does in these various different scenarios was just so fun to watch. But it was so important overall to the story because he shows like his determination and his grit to do like this impossible thing. No one's ever gathered all of the gems together before. But yet here he is, and he even created an artifact that would allow him to carry them all.
Yeah.
And like it's just interesting because I always try to advise people, read those two books before you read Infinity Gauntlet. Because at the beginning of Infinity Gauntlet, like in the first issue, he's like, ah.
Yeah, right.
And everybody gets wrecked. And I'm like, you got to read the stuff that comes before that to really understand why Thanos is doing what he's doing. He's not just doing it because he's horny. He's doing it because he's doing it because he's horny for someone who he's found that has the same ideology that he does.
And we also never knew that Aubrey Plaza was dead back then. Now everyone's like, oh.
Oh, shit.
Well, that makes more sense now. Should have led with that.
Yeah, should have led with that, man. The Avengers might have let you slide.
Yeah. Listen, I'm trying to get some strange from Aubrey Plaza, and the only way she'll let me do it is if I kill half the universe. Right. Only half.
Only half, okay.
Well, I mean... She wants to record it? Put it on OnlyFans?
Oh, shit.
Put it on OnlyThanos?
Only Thanos, yeah. Yeah, it's only Thanos on this goddamn farm planet that he was on.
Making breakfast.
Yeah. Man, imagine you just in your crib one early Sunday morning and you're like, I think I have pancakes today. And then the Avengers
just bust in your fucking house and beat the shit out of you. Cut your arm off.
It's so fucked. Oh, shit. Oh, yeah. Man, in a certain light, the Avengers are the bad guys. Oh, man. Yeah, but seeing him brought to life live action was phenomenal because obviously Thanos, when he was created by Jim Starlin, he was based off of Thanatos, like the Greek figure,
yep.
And who was also had a thing for death. But you look at like Thanos in the comic books and also in the movies, and it's like he's so philosophical. If there is like any kind of differences, and I think they lean into it in the movies, just not a lot. He's not as nihilistic, it seems, in the movies, which is saying something.
Right. Yeah.
But what we do get is like someone who is driven by purpose. He thinks he's driven by purpose. He
right.
doesn't find himself being mad. I do wish that we could have gotten a flashback scene of him trying to convince the people of Titan to enact his plan.
Yeah.
And they're like, motherfucker, you crazy and you purple.
Well, if they had introduced the idea of like the deviants and shit, mm-hmm. It would have helped explain why they didn't listen to him.
Yeah, it would have. But because as far as we know, if we just looking at like the MCU, as far as we know, everyone looks like him.
Right, yeah.
Except for Star Fox, his brother, who we see one time and never again.
Yeah, that never again.
But it's just so cool seeing like him kind of spread his philosophy in the MCU and thinking that he's the one taking on this heavy burden that no one else can bear. Like, man, because in Thanos' mind, he's making the sacrifices too. I sacrificed my favorite daughter, my only daughter, because the other one doesn't count.
Well, he goes on the hero's journey in Infinity War.
Yeah. It's a twisted version of the hero's journey.
Yeah,
and I mean he's got his own adversity to overcome. He's got things within himself to overcome, and he's got to do the thing that he feels no one else can do, and so you can't tell him that like he's doing wrong, especially in Infinity War. In Endgame, he is a little bit more brash, but technically this is a slightly younger Thanos who has a slightly different mindset. But in either regard, it's just really fun to see this character with all of his twisted ideologies being brought to life, and seeing them play out in live action, just so fucking fun.
And the casting was
spot on,
perfect.
Man. Yeah,
I mean, I can't read them on the page without hearing the voice.
Same.
Yeah, that's an amazing pick. Obviously, this list had to have him on it because he's. Yeah. I mean, to this day, that the MCU has not created a more compelling villain.
It's going to be hard, man. And even with the likes of Galactus, it's going to be hard because Galactus, he is that category of being that I say sometimes less is more. He's Godzilla. Sometimes less is more.
Right. He's a force of nature more than a character.
He is. Yeah, he's a necessary cosmic force of nature.
I mean, they definitely could, like Victor could be on the level.
Yeah, he could.
But also, I mean, I think after Secret Wars, I think Victor Von Doom is kind of gone. How long are they going to get RDJ?
Right. Good question.
So
and that's the thing, man, because I feel that like Doom needs to be what Loki was for the first 3 sagas.
Yeah.
Like always a constant in the MCU.
Right.
Maybe there'll be like would you be fine if there were a Doom variant
that like went forward, like instead of RDJ? If they get somebody awesome to play him, like a Fassbender, either one, both of them. They can do the Zamasu shit where like one of them goes to the universe to get the other one, and then there's 2 Dooms.
Oh shit, that's a little too much Doom. Speaking of which, guys, we don't want to blue balls you, obviously, but before I forget, I did want to mention this. Another really cool thing we're doing to celebrate the release of Fantastic Four. We will be watching and reviewing all of the Fantastic Four movies, and I know that this is something that Caleb was really looking forward to. So, guys, so you guys can look forward to that. So that will, of course, if we can find the original one from the 90s, we'll do that one. Obviously, we have the 2 that came out in the early 2000s, and then, of course, everyone's favorite, Fantastic, that came out in 2015. So, guys, we'll be watching and reviewing all of those in the lead up to Fantastic Four First Steps.
If you find the really old one, that's your pick for the throwback, and it will be war.
The war's been off.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, don't start it back up again. It's bad enough that we're gonna watch fucking Fantastic. We didn't review that on the show.
No.
Fuck.
That's never been reviewed.
Good God. This movie, what? It was Kevin's worst.
Yeah.
And then
I was like your second.
Yeah, I picked Dark Phoenix.
Yeah.
And don't, I mean, folks, that's 2 equally soggy shit sandwiches. Like
Simon Kinberg's like, what the fuck, man? Come on.
Yeah. I mean, like, they're just all, they're terrible. Fuck, man. Can we at least review the 2 that are like a sequel? Like, can that be one episode?
Okay, I guess we can do that.
Yeah,
we can do those.
Yeah, I really don't want to be miserable for 3 weeks, and then like, what if this movie comes out and it sucks? That's gonna be 4 in a row.
Oh, 4.
Yeah.
It's like it's meant to be.
It's meant to be. Oh God, that's awful. Well, we are at like 2 hours, and I realized I went first, so I'm gonna real quick say my last 2. We'll just go through them. So I had Charles Xavier.
Ooh.
And
never got a bad one.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the thing I thought that is the reason that he works so well is because of how imperfect he is.
Yep.
He's a teacher, he's a mentor, but he's not flawless.
Yeah.
he's kind of that Yoda figure, you know. But we see him. He's going through some of the same shit, or has gone through some of the same shit that his students are going through, and we get to see him fail and make mistakes, and even fail his students, and like that's the worst thing in the world to him, along with his complicated relationship with Eric.
Yeah. So
that's what I had for him, and then my last one that I thought was funny earlier is I of course had Victor Samuel Mackey.
Of course.
Who, you know he's a bad guy, but he's got a code right at the start. He very much has like an us versus them mentality with, the cops are the good guys and the criminals are the bad guys, and that's just how he sees the world. Yep. And, that is a very flawed logic, but you add that with like, he sees all these criminals taking shortcuts and making all this money, and he's got all these financial issues at home. He has 2 autistic kids to take care of. His home life is falling apart because of the shit that he's doing. And once that ball starts rolling, he just kind of very slowly like descends into much more of an evil person.
Oh yeah.
And the thing about both Vic and Walt that's so interesting is like they really hold up a mirror to us.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, to what extent are you okay with this?
Right.
And we're gonna find where you're not.
Yeah.
We will find it. And for your sake, I hope it's like early.
Yeah. Yeah. For Vic, like maybe episode 1.
That guy was a rat.
What's his name? Terry?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Come on, man. Terry didn't deserve all that.
Every time I see that dude in anything, I'm always just like, Vic Mackey shot you in the face.
A few other ones ahead of my list. I'm just going to name them off real quick. Rick Sanchez.
We can do a whole episode about that. Fucking Christ.
Obviously, had to have Kratos on here, man. I love me some Kratos.
Yeah.
Peter Parker, man. Like, no superhero, man, has maybe quite as many problems as Peter. They may have worse problems, but not as many as Peter.
And he's Jewish. Which we found out at the same time as everyone else.
We did. And maybe a lot of you guys don't know, but Brian Michael Bendis himself has said that, hey, Peter Parker's Jewish.
He said it to us directly.
That he did.
So that's canon, folks.
Really quick on that. Remember at that panel, like, somebody asked the question, like, do you guys think that Peter Parker should perpetually be a teenager, or do you guys like the idea of him aging up with the readers? And, like, there were 6 people on that panel, and they were split.
Yeah.
That was great.
And I remember the first, like, 2 or 3 were like, no, always have him be a teenager, or always have him and Mary Jane together, blah, blah, and then Bendis was like, man, fuck that.
And then I also had Batman on my list, because Batman.
He's the Bat.
He's the Bat. Yeah, guys, so those are just some of the characters, man, that we think worked really well, and we discuss why they work so well and why they resonate with so many people. And so hopefully this got you guys to thinking as well about what characters do you like, and now you can think about why do you like those characters so much. Maybe it's because you see a lot of yourself in some of those characters, and depending on who those characters are, you might need therapy.
If Walt or Vic were on that list for you, then you might need to seek out some professional help.
That's why we have promo code homies at BetterHelp. No. But another episode we did talk about doing was like the antithesis of this, which is like characters that just did not work.
I'll be honest, I don't have the hatred in the tank right now.
Yeah, we don't have to do that one anytime soon.
Yeah, but at some point, like once we get a couple things we really like, we'll squeeze it in there, in some of those things. Maybe like we talked about doing every episode of Born Again. So
that we did. So we can fit in between there, unless God forbid, Born Again is trash.
Oh my God! Like first episode, he's just in the She-Hulk suit, and like it just turns out he's like helping her on a case.
Oh my gosh!
And it's just like that same tone from the She-Hulk show.
Fucking hell!
I'd actually be fine with Jen showing up in the show. Like
it would do her favors. I don't know if it would do the show very many favors.
If she shows up in this show and it's the tone that we expect, like that would be fine.
She would have to show up as Jen Walters then.
Yeah. No She-Hulk. Like just Jen.
Right. Matt's like, but when we fuck, you know what I need you to do.
Yeah. And then like like they just show his apartment like trash.
Right.
And she just leaves and she's like, yeah, Maddie, you really need to lighten up.
He's all disheveled.
Yeah.
Bruised up.
Karen's like, rough night out being Daredevil, huh? Actually,
it was a rough night.
This shit happened to Matt Murdock.
Yeah. Oh shit.
Oh. Well, what better way to close out than with She-Hulk Hulk smashing Matt Murdock?
I can't think of a better way to end this episode. Well, homies, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. We'll be back very soon, actually. Hell, by the time this is up, there'll be not very long afterwards that another throwback episode will be up as well.
Finally,
the
throwback has come back.
Yes,
to the superhero homies.
It's been a long while, but the throwback is finally back on track. So you guys can look forward to that. And then obviously next week we have Captain America 4: Brave New World. So we got some cool stuff on the lineup here. But that's going to be all for now. We will see you guys again. But until next time, my name is Superhero Homie Q.
And I'm Superhero Homie Caleb.